The Mill. That isn't a scary title. I don't know what is. What's up, everybody? I'm John Starr from MacMovieGuy.com. And let's talk about this new Hulu movie that currently is out and has audio description. It stars Lil Rel Howery, and I had no idea what this was. I just clicked on it. Nothing at all. Not one single thing did I know about this movie. I didn't even read the synopsis. I just clicked on the bill and I was like, yep, that's probably scary. It's October. We'll see what happens. Kind of the same thing I did with Appendage. Only I actually liked this. So, kudos. Kudos to Hulu for making a decent original film in October. But it's not without its faults. I don't know if I can discuss its faults because I don't want to spoil the movie. So you may not actually know what its faults are. But I'll try. So, The Mill is an odd little film. It's one of those films where your protagonist immediately just wakes up and they're trapped in a room. And that is the room in which they will spend either all or the majority of the film, depending on how the film progresses, I should say. And so this film rests entirely on the performance of Lil Rel Howery, who is stepping outside his genre here, and he's in the thriller. I wouldn't really call this a horror movie, but it feels kind of like it's like Saw adjacent somehow, but it's not. I mean, there isn't like any violence or gore in it. I think it's rated R for profanity, to be totally honest, or TVMA. We're not bothering to send things to the MPAA anymore. We're just slapping those TV ratings on things. So he wakes up and he finds out that, you know what, at his job, he did not do what needed to be done. He had 3 times the amount of personal time than he did at his actual workstation, and his output was not what it could have been. So his company has decided that he needs to go through this very special program called The Mill, where he gets to wake up and he gets to try to turn this concrete slab as many revolutions as humanly possible every day. Because if he doesn't, the lowest performing person that's trapped in this configuration, because he's not the only one that was underperforming, gets terminated. And we know what that means. They die. So, he's been taken sort of off the grid, and he's worried about his wife who's pregnant. He's about to be a dad, and he's got a lot of emotions about missing out on that and not being there. He doesn't know if he'll ever get out. He's just trapped in this room where just like a voice comes on and speaks to him and scolds him or rewards him depending on the given situation. He gets food through a slat, and he can hear voices. He can hear other voices sort of like off somewhere. It's hard for him to totally tell where those other people are, but he can hear the voice of the guy in the cell next to him, and they talk back and forth a lot. And the other guy's been there a little bit longer, so he kind of gives him the rules, even though he's like, we're competition, so we really, shouldn't be doing this, but I'm gonna do it anyway because this film needs me to do it. So, very limited amount of characters. Most of the characters are voice performances, or seen through like camera footage. Sometimes he gets shown a reward by being shown that his wife is still alive. Be like, you had a good day. Here's footage to show you that your wife. You know. And he just like sits there and cries. And sometimes they use that as motivation. They're like, it looks like your wife is unemployed. Do you want her to work for the company? And of course he's like, no. So that's how they kind of keep him in line. And I thought this was really interesting. It's kind of dystopian a little bit. It's weird. It's one of those, this probably was really low budget to make because all they really had to do was create this sort of room and make it look cool, make it look futuristic, but a set design for one room cannot possibly be that expensive. And and then just kind of lay the film out. And everyone else who's in this film, other than Lil Rel Howery, I have no idea who they are. So they paid one person to be in this film a decent salary. You know what I'm saying? Like, one person had a above the minimum day rate for this film. And he did a good job. Yeah. You know, I mean, he contributed a lot to Get Out. And I think Lil Rel has always been somebody who, when he pops up in a film, I generally enjoy his performances. They're generally comedy, but I do kind of like him. I mean, I think he's worth watching. So I was pretty excited by this film and by his performance, and I was thinking about some of the other sort of dystopian films, other things that have been like this before, and what else is out there in the world that is sort of like this, where you trap somebody in a room and they don't know anything about it. They just kind of wake up and they're like, how did I get here? And these films are always tough because they always sort of work on what you want to tell the audience and what you want the audience to know. Things like, we don't know what year it is. There's something. I have no idea when this takes place. I have no idea where this takes place. I have no idea. There's a lot of things that they just don't cover because it's like limited information. And this film works really well with limited information. It's one of those films that if you ask yourself too many questions, you'll be able to pick this movie apart. I think I looked at its IMDb because I needed to know who the cast and like the director was, and then when I realized I don't know who those people are, I just like, well, it's just Lil Rel Howery. I'll just remember one name. And I don't think IMDb score was actually really low. And the funny thing is that the reviews that it selected for me, the user reviews, like, were all positive, like extremely like 9s and 8s. They're all people who were just like floored by this movie. And then like there's one last one down there at 2 who's like, this movie was so boring. It is a slow burn and I was bored out of my mind. Oh, terrible ending. Just one of the worst. I've sat through some bad movies. I sat through Sharknado, and at least that was enjoyable. This is just, and I was like, dude, this is not that slow of a movie. This movie actually is paced pretty fine. Like, I would say perfectly, to be honest. He doesn't overstay his welcome in this movie. It doesn't go on for 3 hours. Like, it's I know that sometimes for people it's like attention deficit disorder when you have a film that takes place in like one room. There's like something in your brain that's telling you something's wrong. There's nothing wrong. There are plenty of films out there that have single locations or extremely limited locations, and those films still work. You know, maybe they have one person. Maybe it's, Tom Hardy driving around in a car for a whole movie. If the movie is good, it's good. Uh, and this is fine. This is a good film. I like this. And there's nothing wrong with the pacing. I don't know what movie that dude watched. He must have watched this. He must have done been able to adjust the speed on the film and watched it like really slowly, like extended it to 3 hours or something. Because I wouldn't even call this a slow burn. I mean, you're smacked in the face right away with the premise. There's no build to this at all. He wakes up and he's in the room, and he's constantly having to learn new information about what he can and can't do and what his parameters are, so that as he tries to push back against those that are keeping him hostage, he knows more. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has a better understanding of what he can get away with, what he can't get away with. Is he going to get in trouble? Is he going to get punished? And it always feels like he doesn't ever really know what's up. Like, somebody is always 2 steps ahead of him. And that's what the audience feels too, is that even though our guy is smart, whatever this is smarter. And always has a greater plan or bigger plan. They always have their eye on him, and he can't really get away with anything, and he tries, and he comes up with some pretty cool ideas, and it just, he just ends up getting outsmarted by a random voice, kind of AI-ish voice that comes over the loudspeaker and reprimands him for his not contributing to the company. It's funny that he's always treated as an employee, at like he's still at his job, and he's like, and they're always just hitting him up with, we're your job for life. Yeah, you signed that contract. That's what we're here for. Don't we give you enough? And he, of course, he's in a cell thinking to himself, I'm in a cell. What do you mean? What are you giving me? So yeah, it's a much more interesting film than I think people are giving it credit for. So audio description wise, I wasn't too thrilled. I gotta be honest, like right away, I noticed that the quality of the audio description was not where it was supposed to be. It's funny though, when you sit with it, you notice it less later in the film, but like right away it was kind of like jarring the way that the audio description sounded, like how it had been recorded. It sounded like they'd used like a low quality microphone, that the mixing was not very good. But I'll be honest, about an hour into the film, after hearing the audio description, I kind of had gotten used to it, and my brain had like reprocessed it, and I wasn't thinking about that anymore. It's very weird how that works out. But like when you first hear it, it's very clear that you're like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, that was my first, I was like, oh my God. But again, like, yeah, I mean, it's a movie, so after you're with it for a while, you just get used to it. It's a very weird effect. I don't know what kind of effect that's called, but yeah, I was pulled in. It does a good job. You're describing one room. You're describing somebody's facial expressions for the whole film. There isn't really much to do here. There's dialogue, so this isn't like one of those films like, the Caitlin Deaver story, like No One Will Save You, where just no one talks and the film is entirely audio description. No, Lil Rel Howery is known for being a talker, and so of course they're going to use him in this film. That would be miscasting if you cast him to be a silent person. I'd be like, why did you cast this man to be silent? So, yeah, there's plenty of dialogue in this, and there's dialogue between him and the other guy on the other side of the wall, and the narration does not have to work overtime to describe anything. And it just kind of seems like this is the room, this is where we are, and you get kind of told, audio description comes back on whenever something gets passed to him, like he gets food, like, oh, food is slid through the door. Cool. All right. There we go. He got his food. It's like little things. Or he gets shown a reward, or there's some sort of punishment that happens because he didn't achieve his goal for the day. So, yeah, there are things throughout the film, but I think probably the written narration is good. I just don't know what happened in the recording process. So that's my thought on audio description for this film. But I really like The Mill. And I'm going to go pretty high here. I'm going to give The Mill a B+. So now you can leave. I do have, you can click subscribe on the way out, but I am going to say some things about why that's a B+ and not an A. Because part of me wants to say A, part of me also totally recognizes the problems with the film. So just so that you know that I do know, I'm going to keep talking. So these are spoilers from this point on in this film. You had a chance to leave. Okay, so this isn't even necessarily my problem with I don't have any problem with the ending. I don't know, some people probably will. They'll be like, that wasn't the ending I was looking for. It wasn't the ending I hoped. My initial problem with the film was that he's in this room and he's talking about his wife and kid. And this film rests heavily on not telling you anything. Like, it literally, the person who wrote the screenplay is aggressively trying to not tell you things. Things that would normally make sense, that a character of any kind of intelligence would be asking themselves these questions. But I can't shout at the character through my TV screen. So I'm so frustrated because they clearly don't want him to think certain things out loud. Because if he thinks them, then the movie falls apart. So he's trapped in the cell, and they keep referencing his wife and kid, and a significant amount of time passes to the point where not only is his kid born, but he later sees a picture of his wife, like, walking down the street holding his kid's hand, and the kid is walking. He's been in the cell. He's like, how long have I been here? It's like, did your wife report you missing? Like, what? Like, that's the thing that they never talk about. And it was just like, it was blowing my mind. His wife is just like going about her day. Like, I had a husband? I didn't know. My bad. I totally forgot. I thought this was Jesus inside me, and I was just it was just immaculate conception. I totally forgot I had a husband. Because he's not once is he like, somebody's gonna notice I'm missing. My wife is gonna call the cops when I don't come home tonight. You better let me go. None of those things are ever said. He's just like, shit, I'm screwed. I'm in this cell. And my wife is really stupid, and she will never figure this out. She'll just keep looking at the door. She's like a dog. She doesn't really understand the passage of time. So I guess I'm just screwed. I don't know. It was so weird to me that they just never brought that up. And it's like, whatever. He's never going, no, okay. He's never going to talk about it. He's never going to talk about his wife. That had to be like the biggest thing in the film for me, was, what is his wife doing? Like, is she calling his employer? This should have been a film a little like Get Out, where, like, on the other side we see his wife freaking out, and we see, like, her talking to the police, and she's like, I don't know where my husband is, blah 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 blah. And then there's like a cop character that's like going to his place of employment and is like, I'm looking for this husband. He works here. He hasn't been seen since Monday. You know, like this should be this kind of film, but it can't be because of the ending. So when you realize why everything is the way that it is, it just kind of is a little bit. It's a tinge obnoxious because they couldn't find another way to describe their way out of it, so they just don't talk about it. But I was really deeply bothered the whole film that they just assumed that Lil Rel just never brings up the fact that his wife would naturally assume he's missing. I mean, she goes from pregnant to childbirth to the child is walking. And not one time does he ever mention the fact that he's reported as a missing person. Not once. And this was the guy who had like a conspiracy theory about missing people in Get Out. So I really think he went from being the guy that knew all about missing people to being the guy that has no idea or thinks his wife is stupid. I don't know what the implication there is, but that's why it's a B+. To be totally honest, is because while I appreciate everything this film put down, this film has one glaring plot hole that they just keep sidestepping. They're just gonna walk around it. I guess his wife he didn't come home for dinner and she was just like, well, guess he had to work late. Didn't come home the next day and she's like, man, he's really working late. Doesn't come home for years. He's just working late. He's just working so hard for his family. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I know he's out there somewhere working really hard to feed his family. So yes, I like the film, but oh my god, could we have not come up with some reason as to why the wife would not call? Do you know what I'm saying? Some reason for that, because they don't even have a reason. They just completely ignore it altogether, and it's baffling. So anyway, that is why the film is a B+. I took to basically, it went from A to A- to B+ because I really can't. I was baffled. The whole film, I was like, this is really good, but oh my god, are they really just never going to talk about it? No, they're never going to talk about it. Okay, fine. Then I can't give you an A. I really can't give this an A film. I loved it. I thought it was fun, but it's one of those things that when you think about it, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I know a lot of people who feel that way about It Follows. They're like, how would he ever catch up to you? Like, there's just this creature that walks really slowly, you know? All you have to do is, like, get on an airplane and fly to the other side of the country, and you'd be good for, like, a while, you know? You'd be good for a while. Who knows what, you know, I've heard people theorizing about what would happen if you flew across the pond and It Follows, you know? What happens if you go to England? Does it walk across the ocean? Does it have to, like, walk and get onto an airplane and then fly over? Is there this weird soul that nobody can see but you that's just, like, standing in the middle of the aisle of an airplane? Like, flying over to you, like, I will get to you. You know, like, what happens to it? Does it teleport to you if you get too far away? Anyway, yeah, so sometimes films have this thing that when you see it, when you really think about it, you just go, damn it, no, I can't like this film anymore. But I respect the mill for the rest of it. I thought it was entertaining. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I do have a website, MacMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on X, Instagram, or Threads at MacMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what is audio description, where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. And That's it. I will review something else and see you guys on the other side.